Have you ever left a meeting with your boss feeling small, confused, or just plain angry? Do you find yourself constantly wondering, why is my boss so rude to me? You're not alone. So many of us automatically internalize that disrespect. We think, what did I do wrong? Is it my fault? But I want to tell you something really important right now. It's not personal. It's about power. When your boss talks down to you, it's rarely about your performance. It's a symptom of something else. It could be a deep-seated insecurity, a complete lack of accountability, or a toxic leadership behavior designed to maintain control. A rude boss often uses degradation to achieve a few key things, to assert their dominance, to silence any opposition, and sometimes to mask their own incompetence or fear. They make you feel small so they can feel big. This is where we need to introduce a powerful concept I call the time for justice principle. Think of it this way: any abuse of power creates an imbalance. It disrupts the natural order of respect and fairness. And here's the universal law: imbalance always demands correction. That feeling in your gut telling you, this isn't right, is your internal compass pointing toward that need for balance. The first step is to stop blaming yourself and start seeing their behavior for what it truly is: a desperate grab for power. So, what real damage does a rude boss cause? It's so much more than just a bad attitude or a few hurtful words. The harm goes much deeper, and it has measurable consequences for both you and the entire workplace. When you're constantly on the receiving end of disrespect and verbal abuse at work, the effects on your mental health can be devastating. We're talking about crippling anxiety, a constant state of self-doubt, and deep emotional exhaustion. Your confidence, which you worked so hard to build, gets chipped away piece by piece. Your motivation plummets. You stop offering ideas and start operating out of fear, just trying to get through the day without being targeted. This is fear-based compliance, not genuine engagement, and this toxicity doesn't just stay with you. It infects the entire work environment. It creates a culture of silence where no one dares to speak up. Innovation dies because people are too afraid to take risks. Productivity declines because a team run on fear is never as effective as a team run on trust and respect. And what's the final outcome? High staff turnover. People with talent and options will eventually leave, draining the company of its best assets. Remember the time for justice principle. Every action sets a reaction in motion. Repeated injustice doesn't just fade away. It builds up pressure. Like a fault line, the stress accumulates until something has to give. The humiliation and disrespect you feel are not just in your head. They are tangible forces causing real-world damage. This brings us to a question that I know keeps so many people up at night. Why do rude bosses seem to get away with it? It feels incredibly unfair. You see this toxic leadership, you experience the workplace injustice, and yet nothing happens. They might even get promoted. The truth is, silence is not protection, it's permission. Rude bosses thrive in very specific environments. They flourish in workplaces where employees are terrified of retaliation, where speaking up means risking your job. They get away with it in companies where HR protects the hierarchy over justice, where the priority is shielding a bad manager rather than protecting the well-being of the team. And sometimes their abuse is dangerously mislabeled as strong leadership or just being direct. It's normalized, and so the cycle continues. This is where we encounter a fundamental law of time for justice. Injustice can be delayed, but it cannot be deleted. Many of these abusers escalate their behavior precisely because they believe there are no consequences. They get a little bolder with each disrespectful comment that goes unchallenged. But here is the critical thing to understand. A lack of immediate accountability does not equal immunity. Every act is recorded not in a HR file, but in the trust, morale, and reputation of that leader and the company. The consequences are building, even if you can't see them yet. So, given all this, how should you respond to a rude boss? This is where strategy becomes more important than emotion. When you're being disrespected, your first instinct might be to lash out, to defend yourself emotionally, or maybe to just shut down, absorb the abuse, and replay it in your mind for hours. I'm here to tell you that these are the worst possible responses. Emotional outbursts just give them more power. Self-blame destroys your spirit. And silently absorbing the abuse is like willingly drinking a little bit of poison every single day. The correct response, the powerful response, begins with a shift in your mindset. It starts with awareness, emotional regulation, and observation instead of reaction. You need to learn how to detach emotionally in the moment. Instead of absorbing the hit, you become an observer. You see their words not as a reflection of you, but as a display of their own issues. This brings us to a key aspect of time for justice positioning. Justice begins when behavior is seen clearly, not when it is emotionally absorbed. You cannot fight injustice blindly. You don't charge into a battle unprepared. You prepare intelligently. You start by managing your own state, staying calm, and seeing the situation for what it is. This is not about being passive, it's about being strategic. It's the first step in taking your power back. It's about learning to watch, document, and understand the pattern before you make a single move. True strength isn't about the loudest reaction. It's about the smartest preparation. Now, let's talk about what happens when this kind of workplace injustice is ignored over the long term. What are the ultimate consequences? The simple answer is this: no abuse escapes consequence. It might feel like it does in the short term, but the universe has a way of balancing the scales. When injustice is ignored, it doesn't just go away. It compounds. It gets worse. The toxic behavior that was once directed at one person starts to spread, poisoning the whole team, then the whole department. And eventually, like any hidden rot, it exposes itself. The truth has a funny way of coming to light, often in the most unexpected ways. Rude bosses who think they are invincible often face a sudden and dramatic reckoning. It might not happen tomorrow, but it will happen. They face a collapse of their reputation as stories and experiences eventually connect. They lose their authority, not because it's officially stripped away, but because they lose the respect of the people they need to lead. A leader with no followers is just a person taking a walk. And then come the sudden consequences they never saw coming: a failed project, a mass exodus of their team, or an investigation triggered by something they thought was long buried. This is the core truth of time for justice. Every single act of degradation plants a seed, and every seed, good or bad, produces a harvest. Justice doesn't always arrive through an HR complaint or a formal process. Sometimes justice arrives through time itself. The very arrogance that allows them to be abusive becomes the source of their downfall. They become overconfident, they make mistakes, and the structure they built on fear collapses under its own weight. I know how painful and confusing it is to be in this situation. It can make you question your own worth and your future. But I want you to stop thinking in terms of confrontation and revenge. That's not the path to true justice. The path forward is through awareness and strategy. It's about protecting yourself, not panicking. It's about understanding the dynamics at play so you can navigate them with intelligence and integrity. Before you act, you must learn. Before you speak, you must prepare. This is about reclaiming your peace of mind and your professional dignity. Thank you for listening, and remember to take care of yourself. Follow for more insights on how to handle difficult situations at work with strength and wisdom.